Welcome everyone to the OLLI at WVU virtual open house. This is our second one. I'm so happy to have, we have 42 people with us today on Zoom, and we are showing this on Facebook Live as well. So the agenda for this afternoon is I will do a brief opening with information for anyone who is not familiar with OLLI. If there are some non-members with us, then you'll get some information about who we are and what we do and how you can join us. And then I'm going to turn it over to our volunteer instructors. We have several volunteer instructors with us here today who are going to share a couple of minutes about their class, and then feel free to ask questions. We hope to get through this in an hour and a half. I am going to ask you to go ahead and mute yourselves if you're not speaking, just in case the dog barks or the phone rings or something like that. And as I said, we are on Facebook Live, so you're welcome to keep your camera on if you wish. Just know that your picture might be on Facebook right now if you have your camera on. Or you can turn it off. That's up to you. So, and if you have questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat, and I will then ask those of the instructors, or after that instructor is done, you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. So we'll go ahead and get started. So our winter term, OLLI's winter term, we're so happy to have around 50 opportunities for our members and the community to participate in virtually this winter. Everything from lectures, presentations, to small group discussions. We also have some social events. Every Sunday evening, I believe starting this weekend, we will be doing the OLLI happy hour again from 6 to 7 p.m. So that is open to all OLLI members. You don't have to have paid your term fee to come to that. As long as you're a member, you can join us for happy hour. And we usually, it's an open forum. We talk about anything we want to talk about. It usually has to do with food. During the fall, it was football games, so it might move on to other sports. Pets, where we're from, just fun things like that. Books we've read. We will be also doing some trivia nights again this term. We have one scheduled for early February and early March, and those are always fun online trivia games where even though we keep score, the points don't count, and it's a lot of fun. And we have some exercise classes, we have science classes, arts classes, history classes, science and math, political and current events, a lot to choose from. If you haven't had an opportunity yet, I hope most of you have received your catalog in the mail, but if you have not had an opportunity yet to see the catalog, let me just show you real quick where you can find it online. This is our website. This is our main website, and you can find the catalog that tells you what classes we have under either the Morgantown or the Charleston tab. You'll see here you have both Morgantown and Charleston. You can choose one of those tabs, click on available courses over here, and then on the catalog, and it will bring up a PDF of that catalog. The Charleston and Morgantown programs are really similar. There's just one or two things that are offered to the Morgantown group that are not offered to the Charleston group. Just at this point, because they're ongoing things that started here in Morgantown, and we haven't been able to incorporate them into Charleston yet. To register, you just click on this little button here that says register or join, and that will take you to this page. This is our main page for registering for classes. You can also renew your membership or purchase a membership at this page. So I will stop sharing that now. For anybody who is new with us here today, our annual membership for people in the Charleston community is $20, and in the Morgantown area it is $30 for the year, and that year is an academic year. It runs July 1st through June 30th. So if you're joining us now, it is still going to be that $20 or $30. And that entitles you to things like I said, the happy hours, to trivia nights, to other special member events that are free and open only to members. We also do a weekly bulletin And you have weekly access to Michelle Clicius, who was here earlier. She's our professional technologist, and she does a weekly Ask a Geek session. So she will answer all kinds of technology questions for our members. Then to take most of our classes, most of those, in terms of the classes that you need to pay for, there's roughly about 35 this term. And that will cost you a flat term enrollment fee. If you're in the Charleston area, it is $25 for the term, and that allows you to take as many classes as you want. You can take 1 or 2, you can take 20 or 30 if you can fit them into your schedule. In Morgantown, it's $30. So if you would like to join us, you can go to the website, or you can call the OLLI office. That number is 304-293-1793, or you can email us at olli@hsc.wvu.edu, and we would be happy to help you. During these COVID times, we are still meeting online only through the end of June at this point. We are starting to recruit some spring classes, starting to look at our spring catalog, and we may entertain doing some face-to-face classes in our spring term, which is April and May, if those classes can be held outdoors. So just a heads up, we may be doing some outdoor face-to-face classes in the spring, but most of our offerings are going to continue to be offered online only through the end of June for the safety of everyone. And then hopefully in July, we'll be able to be back together face-to-face. Are there any questions at this point before I delve right into introducing our wonderful instructors and letting them talk about their classes? Okay, so,
Tina,
yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Will all the classes be recorded or just specific ones?
Most of them will be recorded. I would say that the ones that generally, kind of rule of thumb, the ones that aren't recorded, the New Yorker discussion groups aren't recorded because those really are interactive discussions. Any class that involves a lot of video, Ed's Lunch and Lights, the Disney parades will not be recorded because that involves a lot of video, and because Disney would probably come after us if we recorded Disney things and then showed them again. So, but most things, as long as we have permission of the instructor, they will be recorded and available through the end of the term. So if there's 2 classes happening at the same time, and obviously you can't be 2 places at the same time. We haven't figured that one out yet. I hope we can eventually, but then you can watch one and watch the other one at a later time. You might want to check with the office though to see which one's going to be recorded. That will be available at a later time. So, and if for my instructors on here, if you really don't want your class recorded, that is perfectly acceptable. Just let us know and we won't record it. The recordings are available to members only. You have to be a member in order to watch the recording. They're not published publicly. The links are not published publicly. You have to contact the office and ask for the link, the YouTube link, and we'll give it to you as a member. So, and we ask our members not to share. So it's kind of an honor system, but it seems to work pretty well. And it's a great perk during these COVID times. So thank you for your question. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm just going to go in order of people who I have their names written down here. So let's start with Ed Johnson. Ed, you want to talk about the classes that you're going to be offering this spring, or this winter? You're muted. Ed, you're muted.
Sure, be the first person, Ed, that has to start all this off. Okay, fine. I'm actually going to be doing a couple of classes. One, because I was a Disney cast member for 4 years back in the early 90s. I'm going back to do a class similar to what I did back 2 or 3 terms ago when we were just getting locked down. We're going to talk about the Disney night parades. Let me get my screen shared here. Okay. Okay, share. Okay, hopefully you can see, like, there are 12 Disney theme parks around the world now. It's hard to believe, but yeah, there's 12. And so we were going to look at some of the parades, starting with what's called the Electrical Water Pageant, which is which is still running from 1971 to today at Walt Disney World. Then we're going to get getting into the kind of the evolution of the parades with more and more technology, more and more lights, if you will. The Main Street Electrical Parade we'll be looking at, which has been running off and on pretty much since 1972. Spectro Magic from the Magic Kingdom in Florida, which ran for a while, which will be Nevermore. We'll go to Hong Kong and talk about the Paint the Night Electrical Parade, Tokyo, Fantalusion, and then Dreamlights. Now, in all of these, I'll be also giving a little bit of a overview of the particular parks that we'll be looking at, kind of give you an idea what's there at each of them. And and of course, there'll be a little bit of trivia from a fellow who was on the inside for a while. So you'll hear me use some of the things like cast member, which is the terminology that's involved. Okay, that also runs, it's only an hour. Each class is only an hour, runs from 12:30 to 1:30 on Thursdays. So hopefully you'll be able to come. We'll do some backstage looks and a few other things as well. But yeah, mostly we'll be watching a neat video of these different parades. Okay, the second class I'm going to be doing is on, hang on, I'm coming. Where did it go? I love technology. We'll be doing, hopefully the last in a whole series of classes I've been doing on the particular tourism regions and all the interesting and famous and not so famous things that are in a particular area. Way long ago, we started in the Northern Panhandle, worked our way through the Mid-Ohio Valley, the Metro Valley, Hatfield and McCoys, New River Greenbrier Valley, the Mountain Lakes, Mountaineer Country. Last term, we did the Eastern Panhandle. So we'll be doing the Potomac Highlands this time, which certainly has a great deal of difference in its topography, geography, if you will, and a couple of the largest counties in the state, one of the smaller counties, and then some others. We'll be finishing up actually the Eastern Panhandle. We didn't get to Harpers Ferry, which is a very historic, perhaps the quote most historic place in West Virginia. But the Potomac Highlands, which includes everything from the Cass Railroad to a great number of windmills to do wind power, as well as the new Hyperloop facility. We'll be talking about that as well. So that runs on Wednesdays from 3 to 4:50. So we'll be doing 5, perhaps 6 weeks. We'll be doing 3 weeks, taking a week off, and then doing 2, perhaps 3, because every time I get into these, I find more and more interesting things that I want to share. So we may go up to 6 weeks, so just be prepared.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Ed before we move on? Like I said, you can put them in the chat too, and we'll try to answer them that way. Okay, well, thank you, Ed. Let's, Karen Long, would you like to share about your class?
I certainly can. Welcome. If some of you are like me, you realized over the last 9-10 months that you really need a vacation, whether it's a virtual vacation or whether it's not. So I decided to pull out a travelogue that I did, I believe, the summer of 2019, BC, before Corona. That was a travelogue of an OLLI sponsored Colette tour that 4 of us from our OLLI here did in January of 2019 when we went to Iceland. I know it's said in the catalog, and I'm sure it's said online, this is going to be a repeat of the one that I did because it's basically, some information about the country, geography, history, language, customs, but mostly photos of my trip. And so it's going to be exactly the same. So if you attended before when we were in person, it'll be exactly a rerun. If you want to come anyway, feel free. I think unless there's over 100 of us, I think that's how many we're allowed to have on Zoom. And I don't anticipate that many people. But it's just going to be a fun look at our adventures in January, which is a great time to go to Iceland. It's very pretty then. And I think you'll see some of that if you join us. And you're going to have to help me out. I know it's a Wednesday, I think. When's the date and the time?
It is your class. It's Iceland in January, looking at the Northern Lights, and it's on Wednesday, January 27th at 10 a.m.
No, it's a morning class. Yep. Yeah, 10 a.m. So if you want to see if you can see the Northern Lights, come along and have a little virtual vacation.
The Northern Lights are beautiful. I've been lucky enough to see them a few times, but never from Iceland. I think that would be so much fun. I've seen them from upper Wisconsin or upper Minnesota. So thank you, Karen, so much. Any questions for Karen? Okay, Jim Held, would you like to talk about your class?
Oh, sure. I'm going to be doing part 4 of the history of the movies. And I'm just going to try to do it in 3 sessions. So the first session will be about how radio and television changed Hollywood. And then and that will go from the 1950s. And then 1960s will be the period when Hollywood had to divest itself of all of its movie palaces, and so that became a big change across the country and across the world in how and where people went to the movies. And then in the 70s, probably overlapping 60s and 70s, became a time when Hollywood was trying to get people to come back in to the theaters. And so all of a sudden they started trying little gimmicks, to get you back in. So one of the first ones started in the mid 50s with CinemaScope, one of the first widescreen, and they got bigger and wider. And so we'll look at that, and we'll look at some of the epic films that were produced. I can well remember when those things came out, you had to call a ticket agency and get a ticket for a specific date and showing. And, if you happen to live in the Los Angeles area, it could be quite exciting because sometimes you would go to the very theater which had the world premiere. The Pantages was one of those. I've talked about that in another class, but so that's basically the plan. We'll stop at about 1980, and I think there'll only be one more chapter of this class to sort of bring us up to the present. Right now, we are in a time when the movies are not sure if they're going to survive, the cinemas. And so it's going to be interesting to see once this COVID is past us, if people will return to the movie theaters. So that's one. Do you want me to say anything about the conversations?
No, I'll cover that one.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Okay.
But I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to make myself a note to actually cover that one. Okay, well, thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim? I put in the notes here when the class is. It's Wednesdays at 12:30, the history of film. Thank you. Sarah Robinson. I know you're on here. So there. Okay, Sarah's teaching a memoir class. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Oh, I'd be glad to. Jacinta, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm one of the newer teachers in the group. I've been an OLLI participant as a student for 9 years. I've taken a number of classes in poetry and creative writing. I taught workshop in memoir and self-publishing at West Virginia Writers a couple of summers ago. So I'm really excited and looking forward to offering the class is called The Memoir Inside of You. And I'll be highlighting a number of different things. The book that I published 2 years ago is my personal memoir, and it's titled As a Result, and I published it in my maiden name. There's a reason for that, and we'll go into it in the workshop a bit about just a lot of considerations when you're writing such a personal story as mine is. Mine covers my childhood, my coming of age, and my young adulthood. So I had a lot of help with it, and I've gained a lot of wisdom. I attended a couple of very important classes at OLLI that really triggered my desire to bring my book to the publishing phase. And one of the most important ones was the one Regine Seelan has taught, personal and family history writing projects. She also has a workshop or had on self-publishing. So with her advice and her expertise, I actually sought her professional editing services through Popular. And so I intend to share a lot about my experience with just from scratch. I like to say my memoir came about organically because I had written a lot of essays, anecdotes, short stories, even some poetry. Now, there is no poetry in my memoir, but you know, I really want to share a lot of my wisdom. I'm going to share my screen now and pull up a little PowerPoint. This will just give you an idea of where I'm headed. I have probably 25 different slides, and they're going to be highlighted during my workshop. I will say my memoir is available on Amazon, and I sell them also. I keep inventory, and I have them here at home. I keep a number of copies. So people message me on social media. I'm on Messenger with Facebook. So that's been a really nice way to market my work. I'm just going to scroll through a few of these and show you.
I'm sorry. It's been 3 minutes now. And
okay.
I actually have to move on to the next
Okay,
person.
that went quick.
So
Thank you.
it does go quick. So you're going to talk about in your session, you're going to help people realize how they can write their own memoir and possibly get their own memoir published.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Kenton Colvin, would you like to talk about your class, the impact of railroads, the impact of war on railroads, or railroads on war? Sorry.
Well, you're close. Okay. I'm going to be teaching a class on the impact of railroads on war. I'm going to share a screen now, hopefully there. That might help. And I'm just going to share just kind of the overview of what the course schedule is. I'm going to be teaching it in 4 weeks. And what I'm looking at and what I'm going to be teaching is what impact that the actual railroads had on all of these wars. And I'm concentrating on wars that America either fought here in the United States, like the Civil War, or other wars that we were in, but there was still a major impact that railroads had on the outcome of those wars. The first week I'm going to be really covering the Civil War and what impact that the railroads had there. The second week I'm going to get into World War I, and I'm going to show some documentaries if depending on how Michelle's able to help me to do that. But the third week I'm going to lecture and share about World War II and some more documentaries. And the last week, then we'll come up to the Korean War and the Vietnam War and actually show what the impact and actually how the railroads really changed the course of some of these wars. Especially the most important one is World War I, which I'll cover. I will say, though, there could be a few people that have taken this from me. This is going to be my second time of teaching this. I taught it in 2013, and I've wanted to update it. There's been a lot of people, new people that's come into OLLI since then. So I'd like to repeat it. I really like to teach history, especially in railroads. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We always love having you, and yes, history classes are a big part of what OLLI does, and so we appreciate you being with us. Okay, so we have with us today another new instructor who is actually joining us from Los Angeles, I believe, and she's going to be teaching about Leonardo da Vinci, and her name is Carolyn, and I am so sorry, I'm afraid I'm going to totally mispronounce your last name.
It's totally okay. I always say if you can remember Bacardi rum, you can remember Cacciardi.
Oh, I
So
can
that
definitely remember Bacardi rum.
Okay,
That's my
good,
favorite
good.
alcohol.
Excellent. So I'm coming from actually San Jose, California. And I know as bad as the corona is, I really thank you for this opportunity to get to share my 20-year experience and research on Leonardo da Vinci. I wrote a book on it called Leonardo's Knots. For some reason, his knot art of intertwining knots have been overlooked for the last 500 years. He always paints knots on his most iconic paintings, from the Last Supper to the Mona Lisa. So, of course, the Mona Lisa is the most famous painting in the world, but Leonardo leaves us no clues about his Mona Lisa. We don't know if she's rich or poor or titled. And, you know, with no contract being found, well, she remains a mystery. But there's a little embroidery found on her house dress. And like I said, it's been overlooked for the last 500 years. You see, we just saw the motif of the day. We thought it was a chain of circles, four-leaf clovers, teardrops, but instead it's a very sophisticated, well thought out of geometrical pattern made up of diamonds, cruciforms, and octagons. And I call it the Mona Lisa knot. So once I was certain that Leonardo had made it up, I wanted to know what it meant. And so in my lecture, I'll take you through his preliminary drawings. He starts the Mona Lisa knot some 10 years before he even paints the Mona Lisa painting. And whoever the model was, well, he never gives up the painting. He dies with it in his possession some 16 years later. So you'll see on this minuscule scale of intertwining knots also the workmanship of the genius. So the meaning of the Mona Lisa knot holds a message. And there's no better time than now during our corona moment to learn what Leonardo's life journey meant to him and find out what the Mona Lisa is really smiling about. So be ready to be uplifted. I look forward to meeting and have you joining me, and my class is on March 30th.
Thank you. Actually, it sounds like you and I need to get together to confirm that, because I have it as February 2nd.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
We'll talk afterwards.
Okay,
and
all right.
Via email, and we'll make sure we get that date correct for everybody.
Okay.
So, thank you and welcome. We're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, Judy Warner, you want to talk about lap dulcimers and tin whistle and St. Patrick's Day. Working on unmuting. Oh, okay, sharing. There we go.
You're right. It is February 2nd.
Okay. Yes, February 2nd. So it was wrong in the catalog.
Ta-da!
So. Okay, Judy, you are still muted. You're still muted, Julie. Or Judy. There we go.
I've been having trouble with my mouse today, and it's not responding, and I can't get to where the slideshow is. We may have to look at it. I'm doing the lap dulcimer class. It's a different kind of a class in that you are an active participant. It is not a lecture class. You will be actively learning music and playing the dulcimer. And so in that way, it's a different. It's Mondays at 10 o'clock. It is, we're going to have to ignore that. There's no musical experience needed. You don't need to have to read music. We always say that dulcimers are play by number. It is a simple instrument to learn, but those of us that have started learning it know that we can keep learning new things about it forever. One of my theories of teaching it is that we sing songs with it, because I believe that if you can hear the song in your head, you can play it more easily on your dulcimer. With many of the songs, I enjoy knowing the history of the songs. And so we often talk about that. And we also just have a good time. I believe firmly that music is fun. And so I think our group has a lot of fun doing it. We often have the group make decisions. So the group that was with me in the fall, and many of them continue from one term to the next, they chose that they wanted to, we always do Irish music in March. And so to begin with the winter term, we're going to start with some Scottish music, and we're going to learn that many of the Scottish tunes carry over into the Irish. We're going to find out that Loch Lomond, a Scottish tune, is the same tune as Red is the Rose, which is an Irish tune. And then we're also going to do some Stephen Foster tunes. So that's kind of our outline. We go through each song, review a lot, and just enjoy having it. Some of the things that you need to know about the dulcimer: if you own a dulcimer, in the class that I teach, we are tuned in DAA, and this is just a historical tuning. The strings on the instrument are tuned to different notes. We do, if you do not own a dulcimer, we have some available to borrow. And that if at the time that you register for the class, if you can indicate as you register that you need to borrow a dulcimer, because I do have quite a number, but if we end up with lots and lots of people needing to borrow it, I may need to go scrounge up some more dulcimers. So that's the first class that I teach on Mondays. The other class that I teach is the tin whistle class. And the advantage of the tin whistle class over the dulcimer is you can just put the tin whistle in your pocket, a jacket pocket. Ladies can carry it in their purse. It is a very small instrument. It compared to many other instruments, it is inexpensive. The tin whistle class is taught on Wednesdays at a morning class at 10 o'clock. See if I can get this. Yep. Okay. The tin whistle is also called the penny whistle. The Irish whistle has lots of different names. Whistles come in different keys. So if you already have a tin whistle, you need to check on it. Usually up by the mouthpiece, it will say what key it's in. So if you already have a whistle in the key of D, you are set to go. If not, they can be purchased at Follies, or I had left some back at the beginning of the fall term back at the OLLI office and can put more there. The ones that I sell through the OLLI office are $10. I think at Follies they're slightly $1 or so more than that. Again, you don't need any previous music experience. You do not need to know how to read music. And the only thing I'd like you to do is when you register for the class, if you can indicate the level of experience so that we can see if we need to divide up the group. Absolutely no experience at all. You don't know anything about the tin whistle, and that's fine. You don't know what the notes on it are. The next step up would be just a little bit. You might know some of the notes, you might know a song or two. And then the third group would be quite a bit. And, again, we have some people who have taken this class for several terms and others that just started. And we try and aim it at the different experience levels. So that's the 2 music classes that I do. You do need to be willing to be an active participant because we are actually learning it. There are disadvantages of being on Zoom.
There are. I'm sorry, Judy, we've got to move on. It's been over 5 minutes now. So
I had 2 classes.
Yeah. There are disadvantages to learning on Zoom, but this is a way that we can all stay together.
Right, but there's also an advantage in that
Yes.
nobody hears your mistakes.
There you go. There's a great advantage. See, I should take up saxophone again for that reason. Okay, thank you, Judy. Yes, some people were asking about borrowing if you're in the Charleston area, and just contact the OLLI office and we will help get something worked out for you. So we do want to make this available to you as well. Okay, Deborah Layton. Is Deborah still with us? You're going to be teaching a yoga class. Yeah, and Maria, you can go as soon as Deborah's over. Yes. Go for it, Deborah.
Hi. Could I share screen?
Yes, let me make you a co-host real quick.
Okay, thanks.
There you go.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to be teaching yoga for back pain. And I kind of wanted to show a couple of things here real quick. So I think you'll have probably seen yoga for back pain. And you know, there's 10 postures. So when you look at those postures, how many of them can you do? Really? So maybe some people can do all of them. So I just wanted to show this real quick because what we're aiming for in this class is not to be starting people off with things like this one-legged king pigeon pose or the plow pose, but rather actually having a class that's aimed at the people in the class. So it's appropriate for our ages, our flexibility, and our abilities to, you know, sustain a posture and to move in and out of the postures. So I just wanted to show that real quick because I think all of us have seen these things. Oh, these postures are good for back pain. Well, yes, if you're 30 years old perhaps, but maybe not if you're 70. So the things that happen if you decide you want to take this class is I actually try to do an interview with each student to get a better idea of you as a participant and what you're hoping to gain from the class and what your limitations are and your interests, so that then the class can be geared toward the people who are actually participating. And each class, it's after I devise the classes to suit the people who are participating, we do in each class a check-in at the beginning of class. I usually do a little lecture that's something to do with either back pain or yoga. It may be something to do with yoga anatomy and the different causes of back pain, or it may be yoga philosophy or something like that. Then we move into our practice. It's about an hour of actual yoga practice and usually includes a meditation aspect as well. And then after the class, we will do another check-in to see how things worked or didn't work for people. And that helps guide me in the future classes. So the classes build on one another and they really are meant to suit the people who are participating. And at the end of each class each week, you will be emailed a practice that it's a very short little practice, usually no more than 8 postures that you could do at home, but the recordings will also be made available. And in the recordings, the front part, which is the check-in and the lecture, and the last part, which is the check-in at the end of class, those are clipped off, so all you get is the practice. Okay. So that's how the class works, and I'm happy to answer any questions if people have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And now Maria Jose Ramirez.
Hi everyone. Thank you
Hi.
again. Yes, I am Dr. Maria Jose Ramirez, and I'm teaching the class Embracing Your Potential. It will be on Wednesday from 3 to 4:50, and this class it requires your involvement because we are going. It has the class involves a personal project. And we'll start with the question, it's like, what will it take for the next 10 years to be the best 10 years of your life yet? So on the first class, we will start like thinking about this. How do you have to think, and what attitudes do you have to do? Like, what do you want to do during this next 10 years for them to be the best years of your life yet? And then during the 8 weeks of the class we're going to define one step, the first step that you can do to move towards these 10 years. So like the first class will be answering the question, then the second class we are going to decide what can you do for 40 days that will move you forward to get these 10 best years of your life. And during the last 2 classes, we're going to present the projects of what did you do, why did you do it, and things like that. So everyone has to choose a topic and actively act on that topic during 40 days. That's kind of
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. We're so glad you're able to share this with us. And it's called Embracing Your Potential, and it's on Tuesday afternoons. So,
okay.
Thank you. Okay. Carolyn Nelson and Barb Howe, would the two of you like to talk a little bit about your class on American women writers and activists?
Okay, maybe Barb should introduce it and then give an overview.
Is Barb still with us?
She checked out.
Yeah, I don't see Barb on anymore. I think she may have.
Okay, that's okay. Barb and I usually do things on women, focus on women writers or activists or something in history. And so we're doing a kind of an encore of a class we did before, but with some slight modifications. And so I'm on the first day doing 2 American women poets. Anne Bradstreet, the first published poet in the New England, first American poet, and Emily Dickinson, who was 200 years later. And we're going to talk about their lives a little bit, the circumstances under which they wrote their poetry. And then I have some of the poems which we'll send out ahead of time, and we'll talk about those. And then the second day, we're going to talk about abolitionists, women abolitionists. Barb is doing most of that, but I was going to talk about Uncle Tom's Cabin, the circumstances under which it was published, and its effect, long-term effect, really for many, many years of that book. And then Barb's going to do something on women and labor movements. And that part I was hoping she'd talk about, but I'm sorry she's gone. But it'll be very good. She's done part of that before. And so it'll be, we have 3 sessions we're going to be talking in those 3 sessions about these things.
And that's American Women Writers and Activists Speak Out. And it is on Wednesday mornings, February 10th through the 24th at 10 a.m. So thank you. Byron, would you like to go ahead and talk about opera after COVID?
All right. Yes, this will be part of my ongoing class on opera as drama. Now, this year, of course, has been a disaster. Last year was a disaster for the arts with no performances. Normally, the class is built around the Met in HD series at the Regal Theater. But of course, that doesn't exist. And we're not quite sure when opera is going to come back. But here's the good news. It occurred to me that opera has much to say in the age of COVID, dealing as it does with illness, disease, isolation, and death. So I thought it might be a chance to take a look at some very familiar operatic moments, such as in La Boheme, to talk about how people meet each other, how people say their prayers, how people say goodbye, how people die. So I'll try not to make it too depressing, but there will be some video samples, and it will be a good chance for the opera community to chat about what's basic in our appreciation of opera. That'll be on Friday mornings, starting at 10 o'clock, starting at the end of the month.
Thank you. Yeah, La Boheme would actually be a very timely one to talk about considering the pandemic status. And absolutely. So I know we have a number of members who are thrilled to be having an opera class again. So thank you for taking the plunge and joining us this winter. So, okay. Carrie Lakin, is Carrie still with us? Yes, there you are. Would you like to talk about your class?
Sure. Hi, I'm Carrie Lakin. I am a retired podiatrist, and I'm currently on the West Virginia Board of Medicine as the one of the two podiatrists that serves this West Virginia community. What I'm going to talk about is Dr. William Schull, who most people have heard about in respects to foot care products. And what I found very fascinating when I was participating in Kenton's lecture on inventions last semester was I thought about all of these fascinating ways that things came about and a lot of the things I never learned or knew about. And it occurred to me that most everybody has had either a foot problem or a family member who has a foot problem. And so it's a pretty common thing to have discussions about feet, but yet I don't know if people understand the significant contribution that Dr. Schull had to not just bringing products to market that people could afford and buy, but he actually was the person who single-handedly made taking care of your feet an important thing to do worldwide. And I'm going to talk a little bit about not just Dr. Schull, but the history of feet, foot binding in China, early medicine, how did foot care, what was it like back in ancient times, and then bring it forward through today. So it's going to be a little bit of a foot history class and a little bit of a Dr. Schull biography. I got interested in this primarily because when I was a student in Chicago, I was assigned a student work job, and I worked for the president emeritus at our school. And he was writing a book about the life of Dr. Schull called Dr. Schull, Man or Myth. And so by helping him, I typed his notes basically, but by helping him out, it got me introduced to it. And so now after watching that and participating in that invention class, it got me thinking, he's got an interesting story and people might find that, I don't know, just something different. Hopefully it'll be something that you'll learn something new. And hopefully some of the stuff that we cover will be just maybe make you more appreciative of good shoes that you have now available. And I'll be happy to answer questions.
Well, I know I was excited to see the proposal because Dr. Schull is obviously a name brand that you hear of, but I didn't realize that there was actually a real person behind that actual name, that it's his name as well. So that class is going to be on Thursday, February 25th. So for those of you interested in signing up for that. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Carrie, so much. Jack Hammersmith, are you still with us? Yes, there you are. Would you like to talk about your upcoming class?
And let me say that Carrie's class reminds me that there is an advantage to the age in which most of us find ourselves because we're too old for the foot binding. I taught Chinese history for many years, and that was a pretty brutal kind of thing that was done. My class is called Out of the Oval and Into the Club. The Oval is the Oval Office. The Club is the President's Club. Transitions from one president to another is the idea. And I must say, I think I deserve 1 point credit for a topic of some relevance, but you've got to deduct a half point from that because I had no idea how relevant it might be. What I had in mind was the fact that we've had 3 presidents. And at the time I proposed this, I didn't know how it was going to go this time, though I had my suspicions. 3 presidents who refused to attend the inauguration of their successor. John Adams, John Quincy Adams, well, those Adamses were kind of cranky, and Andrew Johnson. Though 2 of those 3, John Quincy Adams, who later was elected to the House of Representatives and served probably his most distinguished part of his career, the most distinguished part of his career, in being a voice against slavery. And Andrew Johnson, who was actually elected to the Senate after he refused to attend Grant's inauguration, though he died before he could serve. But becoming a member of the President's Club could have begun with John Adams, of course. He was the first former president, but it really was not an idea that had any legs at all until Harry Truman became president. And one wonders if it was because Truman never desired to be president, because after only 82 days as vice president, he was so ill prepared. But Truman felt that one of the great rich treasures of experience that was misused or not used at all, really, former presidents. And he brought in a very controversial way, Herbert Hoover, which did not sit well with his Democratic colleagues for the most part. But at any rate, we'll focus on the ways in which presidents since Truman, including Truman, have interacted with their predecessors. And I think it's an interesting story, largely based upon a study that I recently read. Now, there is a mistake in the printed program on the dates for my three-part course, because it's on Monday at 12:30, beginning February the 22nd. But the third date that's used in the printed catalog is actually a Wednesday. So it will be on successive Mondays, beginning February the 22nd at 12:30 to 2:20.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. I was going to let people know the last date is actually, I believe it's March 8th, not March 3rd. So I think we originally had it scheduled maybe on Fridays and it got changed at the last minute or something. So anyway, yes, we are aware of that, and it's actually on Mondays. So thank you. We're looking forward to that one.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next. Is Martin Christ with us? I did not see Martin's name come up on the list here today, and there's some that just say iPhone. Okay. He was going to talk about the Wet and Wild class, but I guess he wasn't able to make it today. Okay, so Kathy Elkins, would you like to talk about your environmental awareness series?
Yes, and this is a good lesson. Be careful what you ask for, because you may get it. When you send in a proposal before the presidential election is determined on environmental issues. So I'm very passionate about reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, and I thought OLLI was a good opportunity to reach those of us who are in our mature years about the topics. We still can be educated on this. So we're doing a series of 4 classes. They're all Tuesday afternoons they're all February Tuesday afternoons from 12:30 to 2:20. The first one will be the Paris Agreement. Perry Bryant in Charleston is presenting this, and he's a retired lobbyist for affordable health care, and he's very active in promoting solar power in West Virginia. He will cover strategies and terminologies of policy change at the federal and state level, how U.S. participation in the Paris Agreement will affect our lives, and how we can be a part of that solution. The second session, February 9, will be on hybrid and e-cars. Dave Bassage is presenting this. He is a former policy specialist for the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, and he's an active whitewater rafting guide and nature enthusiast. He'll include some information on operating cars efficiently, regardless of what model car you have. And then he's going to get into the topic of hybrids, hybrid primes, and e-cars. We will be getting firsthand experiences from owners of this new technology, and they'll discuss costs, fuel economy, and savings. The third session will be February 16, Ocean Plastics. Linda Yoder, who is based in Morgantown, she's presenting this. She's incorporating lots of information on plastics beyond the challenge of ocean plastics. Just because we think we are reducing, reusing, and recycling plastics in our homes doesn't mean that we aren't still contributing to the ocean plastics problem. How does ocean plastic affect the food chain for humans? We'll also discuss how wastewater is processed, traveling from our homes to its eventual release back into the rivers. Then the last session will be fun. On February 23rd, we'll be turning trash to treasure. Cindy O'Brien in Morgantown is co-presenting this session with me. We'll be featuring large items transformed into something useful. We know that we can turn any trash item into art, but can we instead make it functional and useful? This presentation will be heavy on photos of transformations from all over the world, not just West Virginia, but we're also inviting OLLI members to submit their photos and descriptions so we can share their creativity in this class. Where have all the tires gone? Like the song, Where Have All the Flowers Gone? We'll be discussing the challenge of used tires and the potential of tire trash to treasure involving tires. So thank you very much. These are all standalone sessions, but I hope that they help us to see the bigger picture of environmental issues.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Kathy. And watch your Friday bulletin for a call for your photos and stories about trash to treasure.
It's really fun. Those photos just are laugh out loud when I see some of these.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you. Appreciate it. And please, could you email me the names of your co-hosts so we'll make sure we get those put on the website, since we didn't have them in time for the catalog. So yeah, that would be great. Okay, Lynn Baker, are you still with us? Lynn is still with us, and you're going to talk about your Garrison Keillor class.
Okay, well, this is the same class that I prepared for last winter. So those of you that took it already, it should be exactly the same. This past year has been stressful, to say the least. And I think hearing Garrison Keillor's stories means to us that we're dialing back to a simpler time, giving us a sense of a small town where everyone knows everybody else's business and they have problems and they don't get along with each other, but you find yourself laughing at people that don't get along with each other. One of my favorite lines is when he talks about Aunt Ellie, who is on the verge of death in a hospital. He says, "She was a pain in the butt sometimes, but she was ours. It was our pain, it was our butt. And now that she lies dying in the hospital, people hovering over her, people sit and hold her hand." I mean, I think, and I just love his stories, and I think it's important for us to listen to them over and over again, and especially now. It's a 3-week course. The first week is basically his childhood and his early career. And there will be videos of Prairie Home Companion shows and interviews that he's given with various people. The second week is all about Lake Wobegon itself, how it came to be and what it means to like the state of West Minnesota. And then as many stories as I can fit in. The third week is his adult life, his marriages, children's, the ups and downs his career has taken. And once again, as many stories as I can fit in there. So there will be a lot of YouTube videos. So I don't know if that means this will be something that can't really be recorded.
We'll see.
Yeah, just a possibility. I was thinking about that when you said that.
Yeah.
This, I'm finding everything on YouTube. I'll have a playlist, but whereas I didn't use all YouTube before, but I'm converting it over. So
okay,
that's about it.
Thank you. Well, I will say I stepped in and watched one of Lynn's classes the last time she did it. And for any of you who have participated in the old time radio shows class where we did a show that I directed or if you came to see it, it's really interesting to see Garrison Keillor's show and these videos, because they show the sound effects. They show how they did the sound effects live in those, and the clomping of the shoes and the door closing. And it's really quite interesting to hear that Foley sound and to see how they actually create that sound. So thank you. Appreciate it. It's always fun to have classes repeated for those of you who weren't able to see it the first time, and for new people. Okay, Danielle Funk. Danielle, would you like to talk about the classes that you're going to offer?
Absolutely, and I'm actually going to ask to go ahead and share my screen. So I think you need.
Yep. You have been made a co-host. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and let me do that. All right. I have 3 screens. It takes a second. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So I am from the Center for End of Life Care, and please do not immediately be afraid of that name. I don't know why this is flipping around the way it is. Let's see if we can just exit out of this. Anywho, so my organization covers all of the advanced care planning for the state. Everything we do here is for you all. I'm actually teaching 2 courses, so I'm going to show you a little bit of both of those. These courses only occur 1 time during this term. This first course that is up here, which is the Advanced Care Planning in West Virginia and the eDirective Registry, I offer every single term, and I'm going to continue to offer it every single term until people tell me to not offer it. That way everybody can come back. We will look at the common advanced directives that people can complete, as well as medical orders that can be completed. And the whole purpose of advanced care planning is just documenting your wishes for healthcare treatment. We're in a pandemic. We're still in this pandemic. If there was ever a time to start thinking about what you want to see in your healthcare journey, now would be the time to do it. We'll also cover the eDirective Registry, which is the statewide registry that stores these documents. So that's our first course, and I did have the date at the beginning, but I have it at the end as well. Our second course is going to be about how to have this conversation for advanced care planning with your loved ones. Oftentimes people sort of understand how they want to go about their decision-making process, but they're not comfortable talking about it. It's really intimidating. I understand that. This is my job, but also I've gone through this many times with my own loved ones. So this whole course is just going to be a discussion where everybody has the opportunity to try to bounce ideas off of each other. I'm going to not have this course recorded, just so everybody can feel comfortable enough to talk about their own sort of ideas and situations. If you cannot attend this course, you can always call me, and I'm here all the time. I will help you through this process, but this course is really just to help people begin that conversation. They are not courses that you have to take both of them. You can just choose whichever one works for you. My contact information is right there on that page, but also here is the dates and information for those 2 courses. So I'd like to have you at both, but you do not need to be at both. We will be talking about advanced care planning and how to do this during the pandemic. The only other thing I wanted to throw out there is if you are trying to advanced care plan with advanced directives, they need to be notarized. We're in a pandemic. I can notarize your stuff for free. Just call me, set up an appointment. I will notarize them for you. You don't need to worry about paying anything. That's it.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle. Is there anybody else as an instructor that I didn't, that joined me late that I didn't see come on, or, okay, before moving on, I do want to talk a minute about a couple other things. One of them is I'm actually teaching, I don't want to say teaching, presenting or leading a discussion with Jim Held and Florida Montgomery. It's called Conversations on Racism and Anti-Racism. You know, especially in light of what's happened over the last year, but really the history of our country, we need to be having these conversations. And so for 6 weeks on Thursday afternoons, Jim and Florida and I will lead a conversation. We really do want this to be a discussion. We've got some books that we're recommending that you read in order to contribute to the conversation. And I will say, you know, we'll reiterate this as well. We are not experts in getting to be anti-racist, or we're not experts in these fields. We're all on this journey together. So we hope that you will consider joining us for that. Jim or Florida, is there anything else you would like to add to that? We are asking to keep it at a small group, no more than 20, although that sounds like a lot, but I really didn't have an idea of how many people would be interested. But we're going to try to keep it at a small group so that it really can be a discussion, so people can talk about the issues and their thoughts and their experiences and ways that we can move forward. And it's entirely possible that we will continue this through the spring term and further on, if the desire to do so is there from our members. So And so that's the end of a presentation about specific classes. We obviously have several other classes for whom the instructors couldn't be here today. So if you have any questions about those, we can just kind of open it up. Anybody wants to ask a question about anything that our instructors are still here, or maybe I can answer a question about a class that we didn't get to. Okay, so that's those are an overview of Melora Can's classes. Her classes are always well attended, but because we're on Zoom, we can get a lot of people in for those, and they will be recorded. So if you're not able, if they're up against another class that you would like to see, you can go ahead and mark down today that her classes will be recorded and will be available online after the fact. We do have another instructor who has joined us. So Sumitra Reddy is going to talk about her class on mathematicians for just a couple minutes.
Hello, good afternoon. Initially, I thought about teaching a class on mathematics, how it influenced art and architecture and music and what have you. Then I thought I may talk about the mathematicians, a handful of them, their life and where we see their influence. So I picked a few and I decided not to go beyond the mathematicians who were born in the 20th century. So all these mathematicians I selected, they're from ancient Greek time until 1899. So there are famous mathematicians born in the 20th century. I'm sorry, I won't cover them. And so I picked a few, and as I was reading about them, and I thought I may be able to add a few more than you see in the catalog, and depends on how much I decide to talk about them. But this is not about mathematics, but it's about the mathematicians whose work influenced our life. And some of the names you know, and some of them you may not, unless you studied mathematics as a subject. But that's what it is. I'm learning as I'm preparing for this class. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. And this is Behind the Numbers, the lives and impacts of a few mathematicians, and it's going to be on Tuesday, January 26th at 12:30. So.
I struggled with the title, and Jay came up with this title.
Yeah, the title we talked about the title a lot. Originally it was 4 or 5 mathematicians' names, and it just got to be kind of long. So we thought this was more representative of what we were gonna.
Well, I didn't want to say they're not household names, and didn't sound right. But anyway, so with Jay's help, we came up with a reasonably good title.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I actually do know a few mathematicians, but none of the ones that you mentioned. So, okay, so I think that is all of the instructors who I have here with me today. We are almost at 4 o'clock. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has attended. If you have questions, feel free. I can stick around for 10 more minutes or so. I am going to end the Facebook a lot. Well, maybe if I can figure out how to do that. But yeah, I hope that you'll register. Registration opened this morning. We still have plenty of space in all of our classes. Yarn Arts, we have 2 New Yorker magazine conversation groups on Mondays, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Michelle Clicius, our professional technologist. If you're not familiar with Michelle, she teaches and she does an Ask a Geek session on every Tuesday morning, which actually has started now. So you can sign up for an individual time to meet with her on a Tuesday morning. She's also offering, if you need some help learning Zoom or just a refresher on how to participate in a class on Zoom, we are offering a few of those taking an OLLI class on Zoom over the next 2 weeks, so you can register for one of those. Our classes go until mid-March at this point. So, because we have so many, unlike the summer and fall when we did try to only schedule one thing at once, we just have been so fortunate to have so many wonderful instructors and classes to offer that oftentimes there are 2 classes at the same time. So, again, just reach out and ask if we're going to record one so that you can take advantage of seeing both if you wish. Are there any questions? Yes, Carolyn put up her website for the Leonardo's Knot. I will make sure that these websites get published as well. Somebody asked to make sure that everybody knows that you can get on a COVID vaccine list with the Mon Health Department. I believe they're currently vaccinating everybody 80 years and older. You might want to check on that before you hold me to it, because it may have changed. But if you haven't gotten a vaccine yet and are looking to get a vaccine, contact the Mon Health Department here for the Morgantown area. I would guess that it's probably Kanawha Valley or Kanawha County Health Department in Charleston area. A few members asked a couple weeks ago if WVU was going to have vaccines available for OLLI members, and I have been told at this point no. That the vaccines that WVU has access to are going to be for active WVU faculty staff. If they get more, and if they have more available, they may offer them to OLLI members as well. But at this point, it's going to be active WVU faculty, staff, employees only. So I will be getting one as soon as I think it's possible, and everybody else has gotten theirs that needs to, and such. So,
you take a comment on that?
Yeah, sure.
I just spoke with the health department this morning, and for those of us who have not reached 80 yet, you can call the health department and go on the list so that as soon as they open it up, you'll have priority over later callers.
Great, good. So go ahead and get on the list, and then you can get it. So we are, like I said at the beginning of this, we are working on getting us back together face to face, because I know that we all want that. I mean, I climb the walls around here, being here 8 hours a day all by myself. So I'm so looking forward to having you guys back in the classrooms, but we need to make sure that it's safe for everybody before we do that. So, so thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all of my volunteer instructors who were with us this afternoon.